Hi, folks. So in my prior video, I made an effort to describe some of the limitations that we see when we observe reality. Right, there is a gap between what we think it is and what the underlying reality might look like. So um, I'll take the fifth right here in a way that when Zen masters have tried to describe nature of reality, what they've done is that they say that I can only point you to the moon, right? And if you focus on the finger, you will not be able to see the moon. Similarly, in ancient Hindu texts, the one way they have described it is neti neti, which is it's not this, not this. So essentially, it is hard to put into words what is something that is not in our experience, and therefore it is going to be hard here as well. But we have three tools at our disposal. Three new tools are: one is a spiritual or a mystical experience that a lot of Upanishads point to, and but mystical experiences are not shared. So you and I do not have access to that experience. So even though Upanishads talk about describing what the understanding was post those experiences, it is very easy for us to reject it or kind of not really take it to heart. The second tool we have is logic and supported by science. So in the prior video, I kind of pointed to certain scientific facts which are well established and try to marry them with our logical construct that reality is not what it seems like. It's an abstraction that our senses have gotten optimized for. There is hard science to point to the fact that without active interaction of consciousness with what we call objective reality, there is no objective reality. There is no tree in front of you without your consciousness's active interaction with whatever process that exists, which we call a tree. Because we discussed that in the last video. There is Schrodinger's equation. All of the subatomic particles, they just show themselves as probability function, and it's only with an observer that it precipitates its location in space and momentum and so on. So, so with that backdrop, let's try to move forward. If it is not what it looks like, then what is it really like? So here there are a couple of pointers. Again, the best we can do is, you know, in fact, one very interesting, um, you know, tidbit here is Zen masters don't, Zen Buddhism does not have a lot of literature. And the reason they don't have a lot of literature is because they say is that this kind of literature is like a menu. So if you get proficient in the menu, you still haven't tasted the food. So tasting the food is direct experience. But with the help of some logical construct and with other tools like science, supported by science, we can hopefully open a window in our awareness to investigate it further at our own will and at our own discretion and in our own time. That's the goal here. So, so with that, let's look back at what our senses are. Right, our eyes clearly see, a very small spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum. Right, we see a very small. We don't see ultraviolet. We don't see infrared, etc. So it's a very small sliver. Similarly, our ears don't hear dog whistle. It's a small sliver of sound waves that we can interpret. When we touch something and find it to be hot or cold, it's just a vibration of those molecules that in our brain we have abstracted and interpreted it as temperature, high and low, right? So clearly our senses are not the final arbiter of an accurate judgment. right? They create an abstraction that helps us with our survival. So when if the so the tree that I can see across the road in front of me, what is it really? So we know it is made up of atoms, right? There is no confusion about that. If you look at an atom, the it's mostly empty space, and the proportions are the nucleus in the middle, in the center, is like a tennis ball in overall atom, which is like a football field. So that's the proportion. Rest of it is empty space. Now, even within that atom, we if we break two protons, again the proportions are similar, and mostly empty space. And you break it down till the level of quarks, and it's all empty space. And even those quarks, etc., are just vibrations. They are just energy fields. So if you build it back up, a tree is just a, a, a an energy field. And when I go and so my eyes are interpreting it as a physical object, because of otherwise I would not be able to be here, to survive, right? But it is just an energy field. And when my energy field interacts with it, I perceive it as a solid object, because these two energy fields push at each other, and my perception makes it a solid. My perception gives it the color and the size and the uh, uh, and so on. So if it is an energy field, right, that my energy field is interacting with, we can call it a process. It's a process that is occurring in nature, that my mental process, because I also, if you build me back up from atoms onwards, it's just a combination of energy. So my energy field is interacting with this energy field with the help of my consciousness, giving me a sense of what reality is like. So let's call these two processes, mental processes. Let's call these processes that exist in nature. Now, where are these processes occurring? So one view. So this is where the thesis is, right? Thesis of Vedanta, thesis of what some philosophers are calling analytical idealism. So the philosophy is very nicely exemplified by this example. Let's think of a woman, Mary, and Rupert. I forget his last name. He talks about this as a very salient example. So there's this lady called Mary, who is lying in her bed in London, and she has a dream. And in the dream, she is in Paris, France, and she's having a cup of coffee in front of Eiffel Tower with her friend, with a boyfriend, with her girlfriend, whatever. So in that persona, so this Mary in the dream, the persona is, let's say, Catherine. So Catherine, the persona in the dream, is having a cup of coffee. She's tasting the coffee. She has the sense of temperature of the coffee. She's perhaps holding the hand of her loved one, and she's looking at Eiffel Tower. And if she goes and walks into touches the table is solid for her, right? And if her friend says, no, 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 none of this is real, it is all, it is all illusionary, she will get up and slap the face of the other person and say, don't you feel this? Is this illusionary, or you feel the slap? So all of this is happening to Catherine, right? And the reason it's a good example is because we all have this in our direct experience. See, we can't share the folks who have had these mystical experiences cannot share the mystical experience, but dreams all of us have had. I have had dreams where I'm either flying or trying to fly, or have a dog running behind me, and so on. So these very are in our direct experience. So this all of this that is happening to Catherine, where is it actually happening? Where is all of that happening? The coffee, the color, the Eiffel Tower. It's happening in the mind of Mary, who's sleeping in London. So the thesis of this Vedant or analytic idealism is that everything that we perceive as reality is actually happening in the mind of superconsciousness. And we are just like a cup of water out of the pool. Our let's call it finite consciousness is perceiving whatever is happening in the mind of superconsciousness. That's the ripple in superconsciousness is what all of life is. That's the thesis. You don't have to agree with me, you don't have to disagree with me. I'm just describing it, right? I have shared a few reasons why it might merit attention. And that's the whole, if we get to that point, then the journey becomes possible going forward. So, this ripple in the mind of superconsciousness, which we are perceiving as the world, is our dissociated consciousness, which is our persona, right? Which is the Catherine in that dream and Atul in this dream is the one who is perceiving this reality or these processes, right? And these processes, one could also argue, are not physical processes; they are mental processes because the interaction between the vibrations of energy fields between of what we call the tree and what we call Atul, which also do not exist without Atul's participation. Remember, without an observer, the tree is just a probability function. So the tree's location in front of my house, because it is a function of me being able to observe it, the interaction of these mental processes is all happening at the software level, and we perceive it as physical and real because of three things, right? We have the physical body, we have the mind, and we have what we call and let's call that window from this super consciousness into this world, call that our self, right? That self, I visualize to try to visualize is almost like an eye, right? It is an observer that is observing our mental processes and therefore everything else. So our mental processes are giving us all of our identity because they're made up of what? They're made up of our memories. They are made up of our perceptions, and we think that these mental processes that are giving us an identity, this identity is driving the bus. The fact is the everything is actually happening in the mind of superconsciousness, and we are likely just passengers in the bus. This throws a couple of very critical questions. If we are only passengers in this bus of whatever this creation is, then do we have something called will? Are we able to change our life? Do I have an ability to make a decision to go left or right, or give food to my children or starve them, or is it just happening and I'm just observing? So those are interesting questions worth deliberation, which we will do in the next video. The next video is about so what, right? If the existing view, materialistic view of the world, which was the first attempt in the first video, is not what it is made out to be. Here I'm trying to describe what the or alternate thesis is, and then in the third one I'll describe so what. How does it impact our daily lives, right? Is there will? Is there destiny? Or we are just we don't have any say in the matter. So going back to the to everything is just being a ripple in superconsciousness. The way I have tried to understand is that if you see, like the other day, I was sitting by a body of water, and there was wind. It was a small body of water, and there were small little ripples, right? So these ripples are our individual identity. And these ripples are arising from that superconsciousness, which is the lake, and and going away at the will of forces that are not in the control of the wave, right? And the wave assumes its own identity, but if you can't take the wave out of the lake and say that this is the wave, right? Wave is just a ripple in that lake. So similarly, us are not us seem like a dissociated entity from that super consciousness, but we are just a just for whatever reason, it the super consciousness's eyes and ears into itself, into this whole universal dance that is happening. And with that, I'll take a pause, and then in the next video we'll try to describe the so what if this is the thesis, and if it happens to be accurate, which I logically understand that it is more closer to perhaps the reality of our experience than otherwise, then what is its implication? How do I change my life, or affect how does it affect my life? So we'll discuss it in the next one.